Hey everyone, hola todos. My name is Jocelyn. I just want to start off by thanking you for being here today and clicking on this video, and also thank you for your support and kind words. I got a great response of my last couple videos. For today's video, it's going to be a little bit more of important matters and something that just needs to be constantly talked about and addressed. Basically a human rights crisis that has been going on recently and that have always been going on. So unless you were born this morning, you should know that right now the Black Lives Matter movement has been taking swarm everywhere on media. It's a big momentum that's going on, and it's not going to stop, and it shouldn't stop soon. It shouldn't stop until we get justice. Within this movement, there's a lot of layers to it. There's a lot of things that overlap that is so complex. We can go on for ages just listing out every single thing wrong with the system and the way Black people have been treated in this country. And you can date this back all the way to basically since the first boat arrived on this land, and then skip ahead to the civil rights era and segregation, and then now mass incarceration, which is just modern slavery, police brutality, and many other ways and forms that we can't sit here and list out every single thing because we know there's an ongoing issue. But in today's current events, we could talk about the whole argument of all lives matter, whether or not you believe blue lives matter or blue lives exist, or if you think the looting and the riots are wrong, and if you value merchandise more than Black human lives. But we're not really going to speak on that today, even though it all is interconnected. So the reason why I'm sitting here in front of the camera is because I'm going to address, as part of the Hispanic and Latino community, how we can support the Black community, but at the same time we also support and uplift white supremacy and dismiss Black life.
Just to clarify, there are two parts to this statement. One is how non-Black Spanish-speaking communities uplift white supremacy, intentionally and unintentionally, and two, how non-Black Spanish-speaking communities can support Black communities.
So first things first, speaking out to all my Hispanics and everyone in the Latinx community, with the exception of Afro-Latinos or anyone who's mixed with Black, you should know just because you are not white does not mean you don't benefit from white privilege and anti-Blackness. And what I mean, even though you're not white, if you're a white Latino or a white passing Latino, tomato, you benefit from white privilege in the extent of that of a Caucasian American person would. So whatever Latin American country you're from, if you're from Spain, however you identify, your history, your life experiences, all of that is just you and your own reality. But as far as the whole picture, how the world reads you and labels you, perceives you, is a lot different than the treatment that Black people get because you're Hispanic or Latino. We are also a byproduct of colonialism, imperialism, war, and the oppression of white supremacy, but that does not matter because when you go out into the world, your physical, phenotypical distance from Blackness and your proximity to whiteness gives you a privilege in the system, regardless of what other oppressing identities you may have. To actively dismantle these systems of white privilege, of our own privilege, is to acknowledge and accept that we do have privilege ourselves. We have to address and work through our subconscious, our internalized white privilege, and as well as its companion anti-Blackness, to stop being complicit. So once again, I repeat, just because you're not white, your silence and complicity are not mitigated, and you can still very much perpetuate white supremacy and anti-Blackness. And silence can mean a lot of things. It's not just about, whether or not you post the hashtag Black Lives Matter on your Instagram story or a few retweets. Like, that's not the only form of being silent. It's also when you hear your family members or friends say extremely anti-Black and racist things, and even if it's not you saying it and if it's not coming out of your mouth, and you laugh at these jokes or these stereotypes, like, you're just as bad as the person who said it. So stop making excuses for these people that you're close to and the anti-Blackness in your family. Like, they have all these excuses such as they're old or they grew up in different times, it's just a joke, they had a bad experience, they just don't know, they're ignorant. In this day and age of technology and knowledge everywhere, ignorance is a choice. And you need to educate people. There's absolutely no excuse because if they're alive now, this is their time as well. Does it matter how it was 50 years ago, those traditional and conservative views need to go out the window. And believe me when I say, I know it's difficult having these conversations, confronting and correcting your elders. They're not going to take it in a good way. They're going to think you're disrespecting them, but really they're the ones being disrespectful. You can only do so much. You can't force someone to think the way that you do. Even my own mother chooses to be so obtuse and so dense that I can't get through to her, but you can't stay silent and you can't stay complicit. You have to call these people out in whatever way you see fit. So moving on to my next point, which I believe is one of the most common forms of racism towards Black people from the Hispanic community, which is their argument of saying the N-word. Any white person or non-Black person of color who fights and argues for the right to say the N-word should really just be putting that energy and that anger into defending Black lives. And that's just something I will never get. And it's not just the N-word, it's like indulging and overusing Black culture. Like, white people love their TikTok dances. They love Black artists and rappers. Megan Thee Stallion, Savage, you want to dance to that. Date Black men and just hyper consume Black media and then just steal everything from Black people. Like, nah, you need to put that energy into defending Black people because everybody loves Black culture, but not everybody loves Black people. So we need to do better, and like by better I mean stop. The Hispanic community really needs to stop sitting back and allowing these anti-Black sentiments to keep spreading around. Don't pass that shit down to your kids and future generations and spreading hate. We need to put a stop to using the N-word. Don't let your brother get away with it. Don't let your cousin get away with it. Don't let your boyfriend or your girlfriend get away with it if they are not Black. We need to call out these people. And I've been seeing a lot of powerful statements on Twitter. One was like, oh, I have a Black friend, so I can say the N-word, but it's never, I have a Black friend, so I fight for their equality. So if you're offended right now, I'm definitely talking to you. And I don't have a history book memorized in my head about basically from the beginning times of colonialism and all the European influences have had on the Hispanic and Latin American countries. And I know it goes way deeper and extending to colorism and erasing indigenous life. And I have been taught some of these things in the classroom at university, but that's just not enough. They don't teach you everything. There's so much information out there and there's always more that you can learn on. So you have to be prepared to do the work. You have to be willing to educate yourself. So elaborating on being prepared to do the work, on how you can support the Black community as a Hispanic or part of the Latinx community, a white person, or just trying to be an ally, here are ways that you can do that. And this is in no specific order of most importance. These are all important to understand. One, it's not enough to be not racist. You must actively be anti-racist. Anti-racism is the name of the game right now. It is unacceptable to stay silent. Your silence is your complicity and your silence is violence. I don't know what people fear in talking about this, but don't think it's a bad thing that people will believe that you like Black people and that you care and you feel like they shouldn't be murdered in the streets. There's nothing to fear about that. And yes, you might not publicize everything. You might be doing things in the background like, calling, emailing, signing petitions, but like your voice matters, your opinion matters, and people are watching, people are listening, whether they agree with you or not. This is why I made this video. I have this platform and this extra means of social media where I can reach out to more people and have another audience because people are watching. People watch people, and people watch if you're either saying nothing or you're saying something. And if you decide to say nothing, that screams volumes. That tells everyone exactly everything there is to know about you. By remaining silent, you automatically are siding with the oppressor by de facto. There comes a time where silence becomes betrayal, and that time is now. This has gone on for way too long, so speak up. I had already touched a little bit on educating yourself, but you should also understand that you shouldn't expect Black people to educate you for you. You're not entitled, and you should not demand the emotional labor, the education, the instruction, and the guidance from any marginalized and oppressed group of people. You can look it up. Now, for me, I feel like I'm guilty in this, but I do try to research beforehand. And whatever Google tells me, sometimes I don't feel like it's enough. So then I go to a Black person, a Black friend of mine, and I ask my friend if I could get the perspective of a real Black person in front of me and see what their reality is like. Another thing is that you should avoid sharing content that could be traumatic. You don't have to post videos of Black people getting murdered in the streets in order to demand justice. Seeing videos like that fuel people and outrage people, but it also triggers people, and it can really be traumatizing. Sharing this type of content basically dehumanizes Black people. Do not pretend like there's not a problem in America. Don't deny the existence of racism. Don't ignore all the pain that's going around, and don't stay silent. And don't think that you can't be part of the change. It truly starts within each and every single one of us. And together, there is power in numbers. So marginalized groups, unmarginalized groups, people with privilege, people with no privilege, and everything else in between, like, we all need to come together. So after posting something on Instagram or retweeting something on Twitter, you can do more action behind your words. You can donate to the proper causes and funds. You can send petitions to make change. Make emails, calls, texts, contact these government officials as much as you can. And I will be glad to link all these links down below where you can access on how to do these things. So again, please understand and come to terms to your own privilege and use that to your advantage to help these people. Because this is not about us right now. This is not our struggle. You don't have to be Black to feel outraged. You can feel angry too, just as much as them. You can be frustrated knowing of their oppression and mistreatment. We should all be demanding the rights for those who have been oppressed and marginalized and haven't been represented. We should demand the recognition of their humanity and to have the freedom to live as they are. We need to put our voices together and have it come to the surface so our voices can grow stronger. And we must stand behind the Black community in their fight. So I really hope you learned something and that you're ready to do the work and do your part and to dismantle a system that Black people did not create for themselves. So I'm ending this video on that note, and as a brief request, I would really appreciate if you subscribe, comment, like, and share this video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!